Okay, so this is like the funniest novel I've read, and it is Pym by Matt Johnson. So I got this book when I went to Philadelphia to visit my new adopted grandpa, Samuel Delaney, and he actually handed me this book because the author gave it to him and everything, and he thought I might like it, and I love this book. It is an everything novel. It is funny. It talks about race issues in a great way that I don't really that it's something that I see a lot in my life, but I don't really see talked about in books a lot. And it has some postmodernist themes about found documents and everything relating to other stories, and it's just great. Now there will be some spoilers near the end of the book because there's some scenes I want to talk about. The general gist of the book is about a college professor who loses his tenure, and he's a black professor who looks kind of white, and he's in African American studies because of course he is, and because he doesn't want to teach that anymore, he loses his professorship, and his library gets destroyed. And he comes across a manuscript confirming the reality of Dirk Peters. Now, Dirk Peters is from the novel Pym and Dirk Peters' Adventure to Antarctica. It's the only novel Poe wrote. It's a very inconsistent book. The continuity is screwed up in it. Poe's like, hey, I'm a magazinist. Why are you having me write a novel? I'm not sure if I can do this. And there's a bunch of racism towards black people in the novel as well. And he gets a letter where it's like Dirk Peters was a real person, and he was hired to write about his life story by Edgar Allan Poe in this novel. And it goes on from there because they want to find the mysterious white figure at the end of the novel and see if they can see that race of people. And they do. And they do find him. Now, what makes this novel so funny is that it's like a really, really good episode of Boondocks. And I don't mean to be derivative because it's just black comedy, but more in the sense of how it addresses social issues, particularly black social issues, and how black Americans and black people are viewed through the white lens. And the author goes over that a lot. But also addressing the different aspects of black culture. Now, that's what I meant earlier, where when I talk to friends and everything, like I'm Mexican, my friends are black, and we talk about our race, it's often like kind of lumped into one category, like Mexican, black, but there's a lot of subdivisions and differentiations between them. A lot of them were, even in Mexican to Mexican, they don't like each other a lot. And it addresses that in this novel while being very humorous about it. Now, let me give you a prime example. So there's a scene where he goes to like Virginia, and he meets the descendant of Dirk Peters, and it's this really old lady and everything like that. And mind you, professor, he just got fired. So he gets out of his car, and there's some, black people looking at his car, and he's like, oh man, okay, I'm going to make this a quick trip. And then she gets out of her house, and she just yells at them the N-word, just like yells it at them. And then she leads him to the house, like, that'll keep him away for a while. And he's like, well, I'm getting robbed. And then she's kind of like an Uncle Ruckus type character, where like she's like, oh yeah, I'm black, Chinese, Hawaiian, all this and everything. And he's like, and I was looking back at her black face and like, trying to see it and everything. And then he tells his best friend in the novel, Garth, who's hilarious. And Garth is like, so you have one drop of black in you and you're automatically black? Now, that scene was just hilarious. But also, let's get into the social implications of that too. It's just very different types of black people in terms of culture and whatnot. You have the educated professor, you have the hoodlums, and then you have like this old Uncle Ruckus type character also. And yeah, I really liked seeing that. It was refreshing because it's like not all blacks are just one concise unit, just like not all whites are, just like not all Mexicans. So to see these different levels were great. And then you have the social context that people do that where it's like, oh yeah, I'm not this race. Like, I'm not Mexican, I'm not black, I'm not Asian, like I'm all these other things. Like, come on, man. But then it also brings up the question, like, hey, how much blood in you, or what percentage does it require for you to be this or to ignore this and everything like that? And that goes with the main character, like Matt Johnson himself. He's a very light-skinned individual, and at one point in the novel, everybody on his crew that are Arctic, they're talking to Pym because they actually find him from this novel, and he thinks that he's white and that all his crewmates are slaves. So it's really great into bringing up those questions, and but also the human aspect of the novel is really great because him and his friend Garth just have a realistic friendship, or they see the flaws in each other and they're able to call each other out. But they don't hate each other. They see the flaws, but they still like have a great camaraderie towards each other. And even though they're so different, Garth is a fat bus driver who eats Little Debbie's and loves this painter Carver a whole bunch. They just get along so well, but they have conflict, but in the way friends would have conflicts. Also, some of the other people who gets in the book shows kind of like the different black people out there, and you would see and everything. He has like an old civil rights cousin who's older than him. It's just really hard. He's the captain of the ship, and he's been through the civil rights movement and everything. And he's just weathered. You have two gay black film photographers who want to capture this and like sell the movie rights and everything like that, like a la Shacklin and whatnot. And then you have, oh man, this one hurts. His ex lover, who got divorced, and he's like, you know what? I was hoping she'd reach out to me, but this is my perfect opportunity to reach out to her, invite her to Antarctica. Let's do this. And she's all for it, and he's all like, oh yeah, this is working. And then when they get there, it's like, yeah, meet my husband. She got married immediately. It's like, yeah, you two will get along really well. And he's like, God damn it. And it's just like, it's funny, but it's also like, ooh, that stings. That sucks, bro. But all these different character dynamics, like, I took a break from this book to read other books, and the characterization is so strong. Even though I forgot the names, once I got their the description, I remember them immediately because they're all so distinct and play a crucial role in the story, which is really nice. And we're gonna get into a little bit of spoilers here, but the first half of the novel I really love. It's like really addressing and analyzing all these different themes of like whiteness in literature and blackness in literature and everything, the different relations between black people and trying to find and finding of this document. And then it goes to more of a fantasy setting where they do find the white tribe and they get enslaved by them. Because in a funny turn of events, there's an apocalypse where there's no communication with the outside world, so they can't leave. So they're like, okay, well, we need payment. And they like the Little Debbie cakes, which plays a huge role because Garth eats them all the time. And they didn't have enough Little Debbie cakes, so because Garth ate them all, Garth only had enough to buy his freedom. So they become slaves for 100 Antarctic days. 3 months? A day is a year, so 100 years. And in this novel, you're kind of immortal by some of the food they eat because Pym is still alive and he's over 100 years old. So then they're forced to be slaves to these people. You know, great twist. You kind of see some of the violence of slavery. You see how the communication disconnect between them and their captors really affects them. And these guys are like Baki, the grappler characters. They're huge, strong, so they can't fight against them, and they're just outnumbered in the society. So they're just like, damn, dude, we're just cleaning. How do we get out of this? The main character gets lucky. He gets a really dirty one, but you know he likes him a lot and everything. They call them snow monkeys. Well, the white people though call snow monkeys. His lover gets one that just makes her clean a lot from a more aristocratic family. But Jeffrey, one of the gay cameramen, gets a really bad one that even takes out his eye in public. He just throws a knife at him. And it just kind of sees a bit of the brutality. Like, yeah, these people don't really have an option. They can move around and stuff like that, but there's really no escape. And they eventually get the opportunity to escape. And they get to like, okay, so it's kind of like Vits, but I feel like it's done better. They get to Carver's NASA biodome where he's living at, the painter. They actually find him, and so they escape there. Then all the snow people come to try to take them over, and they end up poisoning them. And it's cool because they have guns and everything, and I'm just kind of like, dude, just shoot these snow monkeys. Like, who cares? Like, just get rid of them. But then he kind of realized, like, his friend, his captor, who he calls August, came back with his friends because he ended up learning a bit of the English language, and he likes the main character. And then he's just kind of like, wait a minute. We're going to rat poison all these people, but they're still living creatures. If we do this, we're just as complicit as, like, the Americans killing the Native Americans and whatnot. And it's just kind of this moment of reflection, like, yeah, they were our slave owners and they were going to capture us, but we're killing children, we're killing mothers, we're killing fathers out here. This is kind of bad, but it's too late to stop it. And on top of that, it's too late, you know, the Telican people, they're gonna take him back as slaves or kill them. It's kind of like one of those situations where it's like, kill or be killed. Funny thing, the cousin who was a part of the civil rights movement and everything, he forms a relationship with one of them. And when he's like, "Hey man, we got to get out of here," he's like, "Nah, we got to make these people change and see the ways." Like, what? So he's sleeping with one of them, which is also a funny scene. And it's like this twist where you thought he'd be the first one who wants to escape, fight against his captors. I was talking about how the white people are holding him down, and then it's like, no, let's stay here. It's like, did he just get comfortable sleeping with one? Um, and you see, and then like another one, Nathaniel, the husband of the woman he loves, kind of his business ties, like starts being an Uncle Tom for them and starts representing him. But he actually leads them to the biodome and whatnot. Tries to tell them like, "Hey man, let's come back," and everything like that. So it's interesting to see the different dynamics of how slavery affects each individual in ways that you wouldn't expect. And it's great to see that even though they're these captors, and there's a lot of criticism of white culture, maybe to an extreme amount. No, not extreme, but there's a heavy criticism of white culture. But it's still like, wait, these people are still human. We can't just kill like this. They end up doing it because they don't have a choice. But and also the Carvels are the one who puts it out. But all these different dynamics and everything really help the second half of the fantasy half not become too fantasy, not just rely too much on just like, oh, look at these crazy Neanderthals out here. It still relies heavily a lot on racial politics and what is slavery, what is blackness, and whatnot. And I thought that was great. I really enjoyed the novel for that. There were just so many cool things, and just all these elements just messed so well together. And it's one of the new things I really like about novels now, where it's very segmented. So it's not just one idea continually throughout the whole novel stretched out, because that just gets tiring for me. It's like there's very defined beginning, very defined middle, and a very defined end as well. And with very different locations. Like the Carvel's biodome is totally different from the Antarctic tundra. And it's great. I really love this novel. Now, some criticisms that I have of the novel, they're not too big. When he sees Augustus, the snow monkey that becomes friends with him, he accidentally eats the rat poison and he dies. And he's like, God, I can't show emotion to this because right now, because else I'll be dimed out, but because there's another one next to him. But he's also like, man, this guy was my responsibility. And there's another scene where they say like, yeah, Nathaniel's not coming with us. We try to tell him. And Garth's like, screw this, like, hey, yo, get over here. And he was wearing a disguise, so that blows the whole operation, so it leads to the attack. I don't feel like there was enough reflection by Garth's part and the main character's part with Augustus on, like, how they messed up. Because they stopped talking, and it gets everybody killed, all the snow people and all the other crew. And, then it just goes into the last part of the novel where they try to find the Black Island. And it ends the same way the Edgar Allan Poe book does, where there's a black figure they see and then multiple ones. But I feel like that was a major mess up by Garth. That was a major mess up by the main character. There should really be a bit more reflection on this, but it just was kind of skimmed over. And I wish it was recognized, but it just wasn't there enough. But other than that, I think this is a great novel. It's one of my favorite. I had a blast reading it. Like, this was a novel in a while where I'm just like, this is just fun to read. And I highly recommend it. It's just a great everything novel. I don't think you can go wrong with it, and I'm definitely going to check out more by this author. So that's Pym by Matt Johnson. Absolutely check it out.